From behind the walls of ancient Kadesh, the Hittite forces emerged in a grand display of military might. Ramesses, the young Egyptian pharaoh, watched intently as the enemy forces revealed themselves, knowing a great challenge lay ahead. The sound was deafening, the rumble of wheels, the screams of men and horses, the clash of bronze weapons. Ramesses could see his forward division crumbling under the sudden Hittite assault. The Naaran division was still hours away, and the Amun division followed far behind his current position. The situation was dire. My father Amun, I am alone. No other is with me. My infantry and my chariot force have forsaken me. But the young pharaoh did not flee. Instead, he did something that would be celebrated in temple carvings for millennia to come. He charged.
For the gods.
Hold on, my lord. We must hold our ground. From his elevated position, Muwatalli II watched with growing concern as the Egyptian counterattack disrupted his carefully laid plans. The Hittite king had positioned his forces perfectly, splitting the Egyptian army into vulnerable segments, but he hadn't counted on Ramesses' bold response. The pharaoh's desperate charge had bought precious time. The battle shifted again as the Naaran division, having force-marched from the coastal regions, arrived unexpectedly from the west. These fresh troops crashed into the Hittite flank, their war cries carrying across the battlefield as they drove deep into the enemy formation. The Hittite chariots, now caught between Ramesses' force and the Naaran division, began to lose their cohesion. Individual duels broke out across the battlefield as the ordered lines dissolved into chaos. A Hittite chariot commander, his bronze armor gleaming in the Syrian sun, drove straight for Ramesses. For Egypt, the pharaoh's arrows found their mark, sending both driver and warrior tumbling from their vehicle. Similar scenes played out everywhere as Egypt's lighter, more agile chariots darted through the Hittite ranks. As the sun began to set, the battle reached its culmination. Retreat! Regroup at Kadesh! The Hittite army, its initial advantage squandered, began a fighting retreat toward the walls of Muwatalli II's gambit had failed, but neither side could claim a decisive victory. The field was littered with broken chariots, fallen warriors, and the aftermath of history's greatest chariot battle. Ramesses II stood once again in his chariot, watching as the dust settled over the battlefield. In the gathering darkness, soldiers from both armies began the solemn task of tending to the wounded and gathering their dead.
Hold on, brother. We'll get you back on your feet.
The solemn task of tending to the wounded and gathering their dead. The great walls of Kadesh stood silent witness to the day's carnage, its ancient stones unmarked by the thousands of lives lost in its shadow. Soon, diplomats would begin the work that warriors could not complete, eventually forging the world's first recorded peace treaty between these two great powers. The Battle of Kadesh had changed the face of ancient warfare, demonstrating both the power and limitations of chariot warfare. As the stars emerged above the Syrian plain, the fires of the Egyptian camp threw dancing shadows across the faces of warriors who had witnessed history. They had survived the greatest chariot battle the world would ever see, and their stories would be told for generations to come, carved in stone and painted on temple walls. But on this evening, as the fires began to burn across the battle-scarred plain, Ramesses II contemplated how close he had come to disaster. His legendary charge had saved his army and his reputation, but it had also taught him the price of victory and the value of peace. The Battle of Kadesh would echo through history, not only as the greatest chariot battle ever fought, but as a turning point in the relationship between the two most powerful empires of the Bronze Age. As the stars emerged above the Syrian plain, the fires of the Egyptian camp threw dancing shadows across the faces of warriors who had witnessed history. They had survived the greatest chariot battle the world would ever see, and their stories would be told for generations to come, carved in stone and painted on temple walls, a testament to the day when two mighty empires clashed in the shadow of ancient Kadesh.